bienvenidos todos. Es tu favorito señorito el tigre, aka Jackson Turner, aka Jackson Clark. But even still, on today's segment, we've got a very big list of juicy things to get into. But first and foremost, America, we have a problem. Now, I know the scholastic system does its very best in order to not only cater towards the education of our up and coming generation of new students, but one thing that's been neglected recently is our teachers. There is no reason as to why a teacher at Saluda High School should have been neglected an extended term of leave after she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Logically, make that make sense to me. As a nation, we should not be up here in the Stone Age when it comes to adhering to the health of our individuals, that of which are trying to help the people that we also care about prosper to the best of their ability. That is outrageous. Logically, make that make sense to me. You can't. Exactly. Take a moment and think about that for a minute. That could have been your relative, somebody that you care about, and you're going to deny them the possibility and the ability to go to doctor's appointments or go to chemotherapy in general? Please. Sorry to start this off on such a hot take, but even still, that has been fuming within me for the past couple of weeks now. But even still, how this is the first episode of the Tiger Tea Hour. How's everybody been? It's been a while since we last hung out and got together, but even still, you wouldn't believe the amount of strings that I had to pull in order to get Keoni to get me this show. Don't worry. It's a secret between you and I, though. But on top of that, let's talk about what we've all been up to. So recently, I've just been making sure that I've been on top of my craft, making sure that I've also got some things to talk with all of you about, but simultaneously, what's up with you? Let me know in the comments. I'll make sure to read it and reply to everybody's input. Though, simultaneously, consumer supply and demand, I should say, as well as supply. Everybody, we are currently in an inflation, that of which means that the worth of our dollars is not necessarily where it should be, coupled with the fact that the price of everything has gone up in order to make sure that stores and merchants can make their ends meet. However, us as individuals, what about us? Seeing as to how now establishments are not necessarily paying us livable wages, it's difficult to put food on our tables, as well as make sure that all of our bills and utilities are paid. We're quite literally living in one of the most difficult times of our lives, especially seeing as to how this is being called the Great Walkout. People are no longer putting in 2 weeks notice. You'll be lucky if you even get 2 minutes notice. I know for a fact I'm guilty of that, seeing as to how some jobs have literally tried to make it seem as though my life wasn't important to them. Guess what? You can hire somebody else. But simultaneously, that just feeds back into the problem of itself. Even still, you leave a job, they now have a vacuum that needs to be filled in terms of making sure that they have somebody to sell whatever merchandise it is that they have on the shelves before it expires. Then they've got to mark up those prices to make sure that they're not only getting their revenue, but that they're able to pay the people that supply them with this merchandise in the first place. Yet simultaneously, how are we supposed to make sure that we can buy this stuff if we're not being paid enough money? See how it's a double-edged sword, sort of a serpent eating its own tail? Yeah, that's exactly where the problem resides. But simultaneously, if you ask me, it seems as though some people aren't necessarily remembering as to what is going on here. You leave your job. What is your next source of income? Did you have a secondary source of income set up before you decided that walkout was your best option? Then you've also got people that are now landlords raising the rent on their tenants. That's another issue in of itself, because that's another source of income that of which is being docked. Though simultaneously, on you as a renter, if you're making sure that your bills are paid as well as you're also paying your rent on time, that's some good insurance for you to make sure that you're able to finance a house later on. Therefore, you no longer need to be a tenant under a landlord. However, it's a good mark on the landlord if they make sure that you miss a payment or that they evict you. But simultaneously, then they can also put somebody else in that house and then do the exact same thing over again. See as to how we have more issues feeding into more problems, that of which we try to find solutions for, that of which never gets solved. I just love that. Said nobody ever. But honestly, it's just why? Who came up with this? What is this Ponzi scheme that of which is being perpetrated by a bunch of the forgive my potty mouth, mercantilized bullshit that of which is going on with our society as a whole? Who was taught in school that this is okay to do? Like, honestly. But enough of me hitting the dead horse that of which is the scholastic system. Because reading off of these statistics, consumer prices rose 0.4% in February alone. 3.2% from a year ago. Those numbers track, as well as they're also not very good for you, seeing as to how if you make sure that you're keeping track of your income, your savings, your 401k. I learned that word from a nerd friend of mine. Hi, Weenie! But the Consumer Price Index, a broad measure of goods and service costs, increased 0.4% for the month and 3.2% from a year ago. I don't know about a lot of sense of this, but even so, I'm going to make sure that I double check with that nerd guy. The monthly measure was in the line of expectations, while the 12-month reading was slightly higher. The core CPI rose, as well as a 2.3% increase in energy costs helped boost the headline inflation numbers. Food costs were flat on the month, while shelter climbed another 0.4%. You see as to what I'm getting at here? Problems feeding into more problems, that of which lead to more problems that never get solved. Wake up and smell the coffee, everybody. Or in this case, the tea.
Does it smell the coffee or smell the roses?
I've heard both, personally. Is it smell the coffee or is it smell the roses? That's another thing we can talk about down in the chat. Which one have you heard more of? Smell the coffee or smell the roses? I hear both. Though, in the sense of that, everybody, we go through stressful times. They never stop. So make sure that you always take a good bit of time, whether or not that's a moment, an hour even, or even a full day, to relax, de-stress, recenter, and breathe. In through the nose, hold it in the recesses of your chest, and out through the mouth. As many times as you need that in order to make sure that you're recentered and grounded. I feel better already. How's about you? No, even still, apparently we've also got another bit of an issue going on. Once again with these merchants, though this time it's not the merchants themselves, it's their employees at the registers. So apparently there's another scam going around, that of which everybody, this is going to be a very big eye-opener for you. It is a cash back scam. So let's just happen to say you're going to pay for your merchandise using either your credit or your debit card. Everybody knows that cash back option on the little scan pin pad, right? You either click yes or no, and then you click the amount that you want in cash back. Yes. So apparently the cashier is able to push a button on their end and decide whether or not you want cash back, and it disappears for you entirely. Make sure that you've got some sort of notification set up with your banker or whoever you finance your credit or debit cards through, because that of which is going to be your saving grace and also help you catch these snakes red-handed before they're able to slither away. This woman was apparently just buying $90 worth of groceries, mind you. That of which, it's always good to set a budget. Don't go over your budget, as well as also make sure that you adhere to aforementioned budget to the best of your ability, without going over that encompassment. Simultaneously, this instance per hand, she not only had it happen to her, but she also witnessed it happen to the woman in front of her, but she didn't necessarily comprehend what was going on until it was too late. Not necessarily for herself, but for the other woman. So apparently this cashier pushed the $100 cash back button. So she's getting this notification on her phone, that of which it voided out the whole transaction because she had that allotted set amount that she wanted to spend of $90, and it went over that. So she was like, hold on a second, hold the transaction. I'm getting a notification from my bank. And the cashier gets skittish, mind you. Red flag. But even still, she's just like, why was there a charge of $190 when I only planned on spending $90? He was like, oh, maybe there was an issue in the system. I have no idea what's going on. He knows exactly what he was doing, because the woman before her had the exact same thing. But he said, oh, I guess she doesn't want her cash back. Opened the register and put that $100 into his pocket. Now, don't get me wrong. Fish is delicious, but I can smell it from a mile away. Sushi is one of my favorite snacks, as a matter of fact. But even still, something doesn't smell right here. That of which is something that everybody needs to watch out for. Heck, I'm going to make sure that I advise my mom of that the next time that I talk to her. But even still, it's just, what day and age do we live in to where you get hired to do a job for a merchant and you're going behind your customers' backs and doing stuff like this in order to take advantage of their bank accounts? And then it comes back to you anyway. You do realize every transaction has a tagline, that of which the store that it was transacted at is marked, right? People know your face. There's cameras and security systems. You work there. Make it make sense. What was your end game? I would love to know. Everyone, what's your opinion on that situation though? Leave it down in the comments. I want to make sure that I read over all of this because this is quite literally a conundrum, all right? I don't understand it. Yo no entiendo. Though, for my next segment, let's talk about basic life skills, all right? Because this is a very big thing.
Why did you wait? You look like that segment that you were going through was annoying you so much. You got to the end and you were about to say something. You're like, you know what? I'm done with this. Let me move on.
I could beat that dead horse for a hot minute, but even still, we got other stuff to talk about because it's just like, why?
It's written all over your face.
It could not have been me. It could not have been me. All right. They would not. Ooh, I would have asked for the manager. I would have cussed them out in English. I would have cussed them out in Spanish. I might have thrown some German in there. I don't know. All right. I'm unpredictable. I scare myself sometimes. But as I mentioned before we got sidetracked, everybody, cooking and cleaning, this is some basic life skills that everybody needs to know. All right. You cannot expect somebody to take care of you. All right. I just so happened to have to visit somebody's house over this past weekend. And I was like, okay, so, are you getting ready? Like, what's going on? Like, why is all of this mess sprawled out? He goes, oh, my girlfriend didn't clean up the house yet. Your girlfriend? Didn't y'all just get together like a week ago? And you talking about she didn't clean up your house? Do you not know how to clean up your own house? He's like, oh, that's a woman's job. That's a basic life skill. If you ain't got no girlfriend, you mean to tell me that you leave your house looking like a pigsty? No. Just no. And that doubles back of his to why you can't eat at everybody's house, all right? Because if this is what your spot look like, as soon as you walk in through the door, I'm scared to see it as to what the kitchen looks like. Remind me not to leave floss in your kitchen, because the next time I come back, the kitchen cabinets might look like the gallows. The roaches might be hanging themselves. I'm scared to see as to what the inside of the oven look like. Did you descale that? Did you clean it? Do you clean the eyes of your stove? Do you clean the inside of your microwave? It's nasty. Just no. Don't even get me started on the bathtub or the toilet, for instance. You think that cooking and cleaning are not basic life skills that pertain to somebody just based off of your gender or sex? Who told you that? Who was informing you of these lies? I mean, don't get me wrong. I knew how to cook since an extremely young age. I was helping out in the kitchen since I was 1. I was going in the pantry by the time I was 4. I was cooking my own meals by the time I was 8. And you talking about some cooking and cleaning is a woman's job? Where? In what day and age? I don't want to say in what country, because then that's going to open up a whole nother can of worms. But even still, you know what I'm getting at. Make it make sense. I could never. This tea's some good drink, but that's another topic. Though, simultaneously, a new trend that of which I have recently picked up on, oil pulling. It is a good dental practice that of which is apparently also helping people reverse years, if not months worth of damage to their oil health. Oil health? Oral health. Oral health with oil. Say that 3 times fast. Oral health with oil. Oral health with oil. Oral health with oil. Blech. But even still, as you can see, these pearly whites are being nice and taken care of. But simultaneously, you also want to make sure that you maintain those whites while you've still got them, seeing as to how, yes, there's such a thing as a natural healthy yellow, but even still, coffee stains your teeth. Caffeine is not good for them. You also want to make sure that you at least floss after every meal if you cannot brush your teeth. Seeing as to how people have 15 minutes for lunch at work. Can't necessarily immediately take a bathroom break in order to go make sure that you clean that gunk out. Simultaneously, make sure that your toothpaste has fluoride in it. Alright, that is a very good whitening element, that of which is also present in the water system. So, whenever you just so happen to swish water around from either a sink or a faucet, you're also doing your water... Also doing that water some justice, seeing as to how it's getting in between those teeth as well as on those gums in order to help out. But even still, do your due diligence. Take your gums to the gym, as they call it. Though, that is just as something that I've started partaking in, that of which I wanted to let everybody else know. What are some different things that you utilize? Whether or not that's, what is it, baking soda? Or is it baking powder? I think it's baking soda. People use baking soda on their teeth, right?
Baking soda.
Okay, baking soda. So, baking soda, then some people also use that weird peroxide strip stuff, that of which I heard is bad for you. Some people still go for whitening treatments, that of which cost you an arm and a leg. In this economy, if you can afford it, I mean, go for it. But even still, there's got to be some different at-home remedies that you could utilize. In my personal opinion, but that's just me. You know, not everybody has to listen or do what I say, seeing as to how I'm just a TV talk show host. By the way, I hope you've enjoyed the show thus far, seeing as to how I made sure to put everything together just for all of you. Yet, simultaneously, however, in terms of a multitude of different things that of which are going on within this, country we all call home, unless you're reading this from abroad. Hi! But on top of that, apparently they're trying to make sure that also interest on credit cards is being canceled out, that of which I'm happy about, saying as to how I need to make sure that I pay my credit cards every single month, that of which is a very tedious task, yet apparently it also is supposed to help with your credit score. Where? Because they're still making sure that they bump you down, seeing as to how that interest rate goes before the report and the payment doesn't go after. Yeah, we're screwed either way, unfortunately. Weirdly enough. But enough about that topic. So, because there's also a whole bunch of other stuff that we could talk about in terms of debts, like the whole student loans situation that is currently going on, seeing as to how, yes, education is a very big part of our curriculum or our economic state. I feel like it's both, but simultaneously, most people nowadays aren't going to college for most of their jobs. They're giving out all of these high-paying jobs to entry-level equivalency. You mean to tell me something that would usually require 4 years worth of education and a degree is now just something you can walk in and apply for? I don't know how I feel about that. Logistically. Like, bartenders, for instance, don't have to go to school anymore. You can just walk in and apply, and they literally teach you everything there on the spot. Do you know how to sanitize glasses, though? I hope you know if that is a thing. That needs to be upheld, like food safety and everything. I'm hoping that there's also like some different courses that of which you give your people in-house, even if they don't know how to go take a serve safe test, that of which is a 100 question test that lets you know whether or not you would pass in order to get a certification to tell you whether or not you could work in a kitchen, and then whether or not you could go up to the next level. I had to do all of that in high school as a culinary student. That's just a little bit about me, but simultaneously, it also taught me the valuable life skill of as to how to cook more, seeing as to how my mom can only teach me so much, as she's a retired chef of 40 years, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to Black and Red Betty. But even still, I had that in my back pocket from a very young age. Not everybody just so happens to have that luxury. Though even still, you can start out with small recipes, soup, rice, things of that nature. Ramen noodles are not going to be your saving grace up until the very last day that you draw your breath. On top of that, they're not good for you. They're high in salt, as well as they're also extremely processed, coupled with the fact that the preservatives don't break down in your stomach properly. Please stray away from them if you can, to the best of your ability. It's not good for your health in the long run. Though simultaneously, I know somebody that doesn't know how to make rice. Yes, you heard that right. Rice. The thing that you literally just have to put a cup, if not a cup and a half of water into a rice cooker after you've washed your rice. Speaking of which, if you don't wash your rice, you're cursed. Rinse that rice off until the water runs clear, unless you're going to save it for your hair, because that's also another thing. Rice water is apparently extremely beneficial for the roots and follicles of your hair. But even still, wash your rice before you cook it. Those preservatives are doing nothing but going straight into your bloodstream and causing a good bit of toxicity. But hey, the more research you do, the faster we're going to die, so it doesn't matter anyway, I guess. But that's just me. Yet simultaneously, how do you not know how to cook rice? The instructions are on the bag. All you gotta do is go get a rice cooker. The instructions are on the box. That also leads into another issue, seeing as to how some people don't like to read anymore. How do you not like to read? You speak the language. At least I would hope so. If English isn't your first language, you get that pass. Alright? You only. Yet simultaneously, I'm pretty certain most things have secondary languages like Mandarin, as well as Spanish, French, and maybe even German. I'm gonna have to look into that and I'm gonna get back to y'all. Y'all hear about it. You'll hear about it in the comments. I'm gonna have to post a lot of different stuff and links in the comments. We're gonna have fun down there, just know that for a fact. Though, simultaneously, in terms of some recent news, everybody's been keeping up with the elective race. Looks like that's going to be a rematch. Oof. Head to head, neck to neck. Let's see as to where this takes us. Seeing as to how, if you ask me, it's a double-edged sword. That of which is literally just something that has been happening in a multitude of different scenarios and situations. That just seems to be a very repeating theme. Double-edged swords. No matter what you do, you're going to end up getting hurt in the long run or hurting somebody else. Yet, in order to make progress, we also need to make sure that we're doing something in order to counteract all of the damage that of which was enacted previously. Yet the Supreme Court again delays apparently a good bit of laws, that of which is for migration, that of which, if you ask me, we need to be building bridges, not walls. But that's just my personal take on it. You can literally try to sit here and argue with me about it. It's just, no. Why? We have ports. We also have country lines. Why do we necessarily need full-blown migration borders and things of that nature? Even though it is a bit of a very prevalent thing, seeing as to how, yes, you also need to make sure that you've got the proper documentation to move somewhere, because then that becomes an issue, because then you can just have anybody or anyone willy-nilly going over a border in order to do anything and everything. Like, for instance, if I'm not mistaken, weren't there multiple cases of people going to different countries and committing murders or escaping murders in their home country? Yeah, that was a thing. Yet again, the weather is being bipolar, so everyone make sure that you're either bundling up or making sure that you're keeping cool, seeing as to how Mother Nature, I don't know as to who decided to tick her off, but she's been quite bipolar. A couple of weeks ago, we had hail. Hail. I'm just like, logically, make it make sense. It is currently 67 degrees outside. And it's supposed to be spring? Spring. It does not feel like spring. I'm gonna tell you that now. It's been raining off and on again. The weather's been up and down, left and right, topsy-turvy, literally throwing us curveballs left and right. It is not spring. This is not spring. It does not feel like spring. But speaking of spring, has everybody heard the news that apparently Florida is breaking up with spring break? Specifically Miami Beach? Seeing as to how all those crazy college kids have literally been going down there causing chaos for the past couple of years? If you ask me, it's about time, but I never did get my chance to go down there for spring break. In college. I've been to Florida for spring break, but not in college. Chose to forego that experience. But even still, everybody, what's your craziest spring break memory? Let's talk about that one. That's another good topic that we can get into simultaneously. At the same time, we're also talking about all the different stuff, saying as to how there's so much litter, pollution, and things of that nature left on the beaches, as well as people like to get rowdy when they get inebriated. Drink responsibly, please. All right? You do not need to be behind the wheel of a car. You do not need to be up here trying to fight police people. police people, policemen, policewomen, whatever you want to call them.
Did you say drink responsibly?
Yes, I did. Drink
What's the fun in that?
Anyways, you can have fun while being responsible, everybody. Remember that, okay? So, on top of that, there is a particular individual that of which is a nutritional fitness coach that of which I follow personally because I like some of his recipes. But apparently he was recently hospitalized because he had an infectious parasite in his stomach, if I'm not mistaken. I think I remember that properly. Yeah, an infectious parasite that was in his stomach, and he also had pneumonia. So he was hospitalized for about a week. And his body started to, put on a bit of weight, that of which is perfectly fine. Hospital food does that to you. You either gain weight or you lose weight. It's going to be one or the other. Please be respectful, as well as also make sure that you don't judge somebody just based off of what they look like. Okay, you have no idea as to what somebody else is dealing with. All right, everybody is unique. Everybody has their own story. Everybody's been through something, no matter who they are or where they come from. So keep that in mind. Simultaneously, don't ever let anybody tell you that what you are doing is wrong, especially if you're just living your life and you're not necessarily hurting anyone or yourself. So keep that in mind. Your flaws make you unique. They also make you you. And that is okay. Because guess what? Perfection in of itself is just wiping away everything that you see as flawed. But those flaws are unique to you. People might have similar flaws, but even still, your flaws are key to your story. They make up who you are as a person. So tell that story. Let those flaws shine through and express them. Don't necessarily feel as though there's something that you need to hide or be ashamed of. You heard it here first. Alrighty, so Jorge, I think this is a good time for a commercial break. Let's see what we've got in store for all of you.
Commercial break? Hell, it's the end of the show, brother.
Jorge, we don't have commercial breaks set up?
No, we don't. We've only went over that 72 times in production meetings, but you usually spend the time in a production meeting telling all of us how you're unsatisfied with our demeanor, our production, and our choice of wardrobe to work.
I mean, it's not my fault that you all decide to wear things that the witches back during the Salem witch trials wore, but that's none of my business. But simultaneously, I'm not going to get into that because then everybody's going to look at me as though I'm a type of person that needs to be despised, and I'm not. But even still, so.
We love you, though.
I love y'all, too. Just make sure that you also do everything that I told you to, seeing as to how if I find one thing out of sorts, I will be coming to collect your heads. All right, everyone. So, this has been a very productive Tiger Tea Hour, if I do say so myself. It's always a good joy with a bit of time whenever I get to hang out with all of you. Do me a favor, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and also make sure to follow me on social media. If you just so happen to have any sort of topics that you would like for me to talk on in a future segment, feel free to mention them to me as well. So, hopefully all of you have enjoyed this segment just as much I have enjoyed Wait a minute. I forgot to talk about that. I'll remember it for next time. But even still, take care, everybody. Stay safe out there. Also, make sure that you drink plenty of water and be careful of Mother Nature, seeing as to how she's decided that she apparently wants to start swinging with left hooks and then throwing rights to follow it up. But, hasta luego. Cuídate.